The truth is, almost anyone can become a travel agent, and there's very low barriers to entry. The real challenge, though, is figuring out which companies are legitimate, which ones take too much of your money, and which ones care more about recruiting agents than selling travel. I learned that the hard way when the first company I joined raised my monthly fee twice in 10 months. So today, I'm showing you exactly how this business works, what it costs, what people realistically earn, and the questions you need to ask before you sign anything to become a travel agent. And stick with me to the end because I've got a pretty big announcement, and I want my audience here on YouTube to be some of the people to hear it first. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Now, here's the thing I want to say right up front, because I know who's watching this. Most of you aren't here because you're ready to start a travel business. You're here because you love to travel. You probably love cruising in particular. And you're probably already the person in your life that everybody comes to for advice on where to go and what to book, especially if it's a cruise. And I want you to hear this clearly. That instinct, that one where you research every detail and you genuinely love the planning part of your travel, is the exact thing that makes for an excellent travel agent. There's a version of what you already do for free where you get paid for it, even if it's not for other people and it's just for yourself, where you earn a commission on your own trips, you save on the travel you're already taking, and plug into a whole community of people who live and breathe this stuff the way that you do. So even if becoming a travel agent has never once crossed your mind, stick with me, because by the end, you might see this in a way that you didn't expect. And related to that, let me tell you why I became a travel agent, because it's probably why you might want to consider it too. I cruise obviously constantly, generally once a month, if not more. So becoming a travel agent to book my own trips, it just made obvious sense. And the perks turned out to be legit. Flexibility, a sneak peek at the back end of the cruise lines that regular travelers never get to see, some qualifying legit business tax write-offs, and a commission, that was the big one, on my own travel. And that all adds up fast when you travel and specifically you cruise as much as I do, because cruising is actually one of the better paying suppliers in the travel agent industry. Now, there's also a community to this, which surprised me. Other people who are just as obsessed with this as I am, which when you're the only one in your friend group who gets excited about looking at a deck plan is really a treasure. But in my experience, becoming a travel agent, it was a mess. I like to research, I like to learn things. And when I set out to find out what's involved with it, I found conflicting information everywhere. I found terms and conditions buried until after you sign. I found that constant low hum of, is this even legit or is this a pyramid scheme? So I want to clear that all up the way I wish someone had done for me in the very beginning. First, the big fork in the road, because most people don't even know they have a choice here. And I certainly didn't when I first signed on to become a travel agent years ago. There are three main ways in if you want to become a travel agent. You can become a regular employee at a travel agency and draw a salary, which is stable, but those jobs that are legitimate are pretty limited, and it caps your freedom and your upside. You have a flat salary, that's it, and it's basically a full-time job or part-time depending on the position. Another path is you can buy a franchise, just like if you buy a McDonald's franchise, but this is for travel, where you pay to operate under an established brand and you do things under their brand and the way that they dictate that you do it. And the third path, which is the most common for travel agents and the path that I chose and I recommend, is to sign with a host agency as an independent contractor. And the cost between the franchise path and the independent contractor path are not even close. If you go with a travel franchise, that can run you anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 just to get started, with an additional franchise fee that can run around $10,000 or even more. Plus, often you're paying an ongoing cut of your sales on top of that. So that is not the cheap path. There are definitely some perks to signing with a franchise agency. Obviously, the brand, the name, the structure, the protocols, all of that. But a host agency, by contrast, usually runs you a very small monthly fee. And it's the same industry, but a completely different barrier to entry. Basically, almost no barrier to entry, which is exactly why most people do end up starting with a host agency. So here's how the host agency path works. You choose your host agency and you sign with them as an independent contractor. So you are not an employee. That means nobody's handing you a paycheck, no one's withholding your taxes. You are running your own business under the agency's umbrella. Now you have your own brand name, but you're under their protection and their umbrella, their credentials, their insurance, their licensure, all that stuff. Now, the reason hosts exist is that to get paid by the cruise lines and the resorts and the hotels and whatever, you have to have accreditation numbers, which are industry credentials. Think of it as your license plate in this business. You can, of course, go get your own directly, but it's a whole process with a lot of experience required. There are financial requirements, there are legal requirements, there are insurance requirements. You have to get sellers of travel licensure in 4 different states. So for most beginners and even a lot of established agents, the host way is the faster way in and the best way to stay. The host agency already has the credentials, all the supplier relationships, all the insurance, all the stuff that you need, and you book under them so you can start working with real clients right away. Now here's the question everybody whispers. Is this a pyramid scheme or is this an MLM? And this is where my own story comes in, because that first host that I signed with ended up being an MLM. I didn't fully know what I was getting into. I did try to learn, but the information again about this industry is very vague. It's hidden, it's confusing, it's conflicting. And that was a big frustration point for me. But not only was my original host agency an MLM, but they also raised my hosting fee not once but twice in my first 10 months as an agent with them. And going through that experience and then ultimately switching to a different host agency, which was far better, is what made me actually understand how these structures make their money. Now, the industry itself is not inherently an MLM or a multi-level marketing scheme, but unfortunately, that model has started to creep its way into the travel industry and has created kind of a reputational problem. And there are some host agencies, many of them actually, that run as an MLM. So I want to explain what that is and make it simple. In a full multi-level setup, the real money for a host agency comes not from their agents booking travel, but from them pushing to recruit other agents beneath them and taking a cut of what they do, layer after layer. And the issue here is when the pay starts to reward recruiting more than it rewards actually selling travel, that's a little bit of a problem. Now, there is another version of MLM. It's kind of its cousin. It's unilevel. So instead of earning from a downline, which are people under you, then people that you recruit under them, and so on and so forth, it's just one level. So it is MLM tangential. You're just earning off of the people you personally bring in instead of that whole multi-level pyramid. It's less aggressive. Those host agencies tend to be better because they're not so much putting pressure on you to go recruit people, but the same basic issue does apply, that sometimes the emphasis at some host agencies can become recruiting versus booking travel. And then there is the type of host agency with no recruiting built into it at all, where the only way you make money is on the travel that you book. The only way host agencies make money is on the travel that is agents book. And sometimes when you're vetting host agencies, the ones that operate as an MLM, they're not very honest about that sometimes. So there are some things that you want to ask before you sign with any host agency, which is, does any recurring part of my income come from the fees or bookings of people that I recruit? If that answer is yes, then that tells you what you're looking for, no matter what they call it. Basically, it's an MLM. Now let's talk money, because this is where free can become expensive. With a host travel agency, it's almost always a monthly fee plus a commission split. And you'll see agencies bragging, hey, we don't charge any monthly fee at all. And that sounds great on the surface, but be skeptical the second that you hear that, because that money has to come from somewhere. And usually that comes from your commission split. And sometimes that can be as low as 50-50. So that means when you book a trip for someone, you earn a commission, you only get half of it. The other half gets kicked to the host travel agency. So let's do some quick math on this, right? Say a booking you make runs around $440 in gross commission, which I didn't just make that number up, by the way. That's an official average booking commission number for travel agents according to host agency reviews. It's a rough industry average. So a $440 commission at a 50-50 split, you're going to keep only $220 of that. But in contrast, if you sign with a host agency that has really strong commission splits at 90-10, you keep $396. That, my friends, is a $176 difference on one single booking. And think about how that compounds. That stacks up across every single booking you make in a year or over your entire career as a travel agent. So if you sign with a host agency that even has, say, an $80 monthly hosting fee, that's going to cost you far less than having a free hosting fee or no hosting fee with a terrible commission split. It only takes a couple of bookings or even one booking to actually make up the difference. So that monthly fee is the number they want you looking at. They want to use that to draw you in, but it's that split where the real money moves. So when you're evaluating host agencies, those are probably the two biggest things you want to know, which is what is the monthly hosting fee and what is that commission split. And here's the thing nobody explains. Why does a host agency charge a fee and keep a cut at all? What are they actually doing to earn that? Now, the honest answer is that running an agency is expensive. It costs real money. The accreditation, the supplier relationships that can take years to build, the booking technology, the platforms, the websites, the support team, the training, the licensure, the insurance, the sellers of travel, the compliance, all of this is stuff that somebody had to actually create. So the fee and the split is what funds all of that. So the goal here isn't to find an agency that charges you nothing, because that is not practical, that doesn't exist. It's about finding an agency that doesn't make money somewhere that you can't see. Make sure they're not nickel and diming you, make sure they're not hiding fees, make sure they're not promising a no hosting fee, but then they're killing you on the commission split. The goal is to find the one that fits you and that charges fairly and actually gives you something real in return. And hold on to that, because it's actually the whole game. And that brings me to this. What do people actually learn? That's probably the question sitting in the back of your mind. Now, again, according to Host Agency Reviews, which is an industry-leading organization that gathers unbiased information about agents, new agents who reported income averaged around $12,000 in earnings in their first year. That's a starting line, not a salary. But the good news is it more than doubles by year 2 for most people. And full-time agents within just their first few years come to average out in the 60,000s range. But here's the part that catches everyone off guard, and I want to state this plainly. When it comes to being a travel agent, you usually don't get paid until after your client actually travels. So sometimes people come into this industry thinking, oh my gosh, I have so many trips myself I want to book. I have a lot of neighbors and friends and family that I know will let me book their trips and be happy to hand that to me, and I'm going to get paid right away. Maybe I can quit my job. Don't do that. A trip you book today might not pay out for a year. That lag is real, because if you book a trip today for a trip that is 11 months from now, well, you're not going to get paid for nearly a year. That's why I tell people never, never, never quit your day job to pursue this, unless you've got income support elsewhere, of course. This needs to be a side hustle. And if people online tell you that this is a life of riches, of free 5-star luxurious travel, they are lying to you. Start it as a side hustle if it's something that's interesting to you. Let those commissions start to build, and they do compound. The data show us that. But never, ever, ever bank on it happening overnight. That's just not practical. And again, if anyone promises you 6 figures in your first year, there certainly are agents that make that very, very rarely in their first year. That is your cue to walk away. Now, the factor that almost everyone underweighs when it comes to evaluating potential host agencies is the training piece. And this is the one that I really encourage people to take seriously, because as a university professor who teaches people, this is really, really important. As I noted in the start of this video, becoming a travel agent, it's ridiculously easy. Being a good travel agent is very hard. You don't need experience, you don't need a degree, there's little to no cost to become a travel agent, and that open door, that's mostly a really great thing. I love entrepreneurship, I'm actually a business professor, and I love entrepreneurial paths that give people an opportunity without having to take a big risk or spend a lot of money, and this is it. But that also means, because it is so easy to become a travel agent, there are unfortunately some travel agents out there selling trips to places they know nothing about and have never researched, and that really are not great travel agents. So the way you become a travel agent worth booking is by actually learning your craft, and that comes down in part to your host. A good host agency will give you a structured curriculum and program and live support that you can actually reach, not a folder of PDFs or old grainy Zoom recordings that haven't been professionally edited. And even the cheapest agency in the world becomes expensive if it leaves you stranded without the proper training. But don't worry if you're going into this and it feels overwhelming. There is a lot of training support too from the suppliers. So if you're interested in booking cruises, every cruise line has robust training programs as well, but you also need the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be a travel agent in the first place, how to work with clients, how to advertise your agency, things like that. Now, here's the fun one for my cruise people, especially those of you that are thinking about doing it just to book your own travel. And again, that's why I originally started doing this. I became a travel agent years and years ago. And that is the million-dollar question. Do you actually get travel discounts? So here's the real version, not the fantasy version some people will try to sell you online. Suppliers do legitimately offer reduced agent rates, and over time, that is a really nice perk it's worth having. But it's not a guarantee that you'll always get even better rates than what a regular person can find. There are also FAM trips, which means familiarization trips, where hotels and tourism boards will bring agents in cheap or for free because they want to wine you and dine you and have you experience their product so you'll go sell it to their clients. But when it comes to cruising specifically, they don't really do FAM trips. What they do instead is ship inspections, where you come in and getting there is on your own dime. but they will bring you into the ship, you will board in port, and they'll walk you around. So you can see the ins and outs of the ships. Usually they'll give you a little bit of food, again, wining and dining you, but then you get off the ship. You're not actually taking a cruise for free. But the point here is that you get the knowledge about that ship so you can sell from real experience. So if you do love cruising or traveling, you're very enthusiastic about it, you have a thirst for knowledge, you love to learn, this is a really great way to do it, and it's one of the perks of being a travel agent. But some cruise lines, depending on the time and the season and the cruise line, and all-inclusive sometimes too, they do legitimately offer generally some form of TA rate. Now, how good it is can vary. I have seen some legitimately really good deals. I also have taken advantage of some really great friends and family rates. I took my family, over a dozen people, I treated them to a cruise last year, and I saved almost $700 on the booking with Carnival because of my travel agent friends and family perk. Now, the biggest perk though, it's not actually the discounts, but the biggest perk is earning the commission on your own travel. So every time I take a cruise and I book it myself, I earn a commission on it, which helps subsidize my cruising habits. Now let's talk about a few quick questions people always ask. Can I write it off on my taxes? Full disclaimer, I am not a tax professional. I'm not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I don't want to touch your specific situation, but personally, I can tell you I run a legitimate travel business, so I work with my CPA to deduct the qualifying documented expenses each year that he signs off on. Just know that becoming a travel agent, though, does not mean I can turn my personal vacations into a tax write-off. That's not legit. It has to be related to your travel business. Can I work from home? Yes, and that's one of the best parts. You are your own boss. You're an independent contractor. If you sign with a host agency that operates that way, you can work from anywhere in the world with a solid Wi-Fi connection, even a ship at sea. That's usually how I work. And can you do this from outside of the United States? Yes, plenty of agents book through a US-based host. Make sure you ask that question before you sign if you're not in the US though, because not all of them do. And you'll still work from your own country, but again, you'll want to confirm the specifics for where you live. Now, my whole thing is transparency and being direct. And while becoming a travel agent is a legitimately cheap and very low barrier way to start your own business, arguably one of the best ways to start a business at a very low to minimal cost and little to no risk, there are a few other small startup costs I would recommend you consider budgeting. These are optional, they're not required, but I think to become a good travel agent, investing in these things is worth it. But the good news is it's not terribly expensive. Once you become a travel agent, I always recommend putting a little bit of money toward a custom web domain. They're cheap, maybe 12 to 20 bucks a year, and a simple professional logo that you can get affordably online, sometimes as low as 50 bucks. I've gotten all my logos from Fiverr. Highly recommend really talented contractors that work through there. Now, neither is required to start, but together they cost very little, and that really gives your business polish. It makes you look like a legitimate travel business. Compared to anything else you could start as a business venture, again, the financial barrier here is shockingly low. All right, so you're intrigued, you're thinking maybe this actually is for me, I might want to become a travel agent. Well, before you sign with anyone, here are the questions that are going to protect you and make sure you make the right choice, because this is where people get burned. And again, I didn't love my first host agency experience, so I feel like I'm in that category. First, the total cost. Not just the monthly hosting fee, but what's that fee plus the commission split plus anything else baked into a booking. Some host agencies will not just have a commission split, but they'll also take a fee out of each commission. Some will charge you for ACH deposits to earn your own commissions. Some will charge you for accessing a CRM. You want to know all these things because the headline number is rarely the whole number. Second is the matter of control. You want to know who owns your clients, your list, and even your email address. So if you bring in a client, is that your client? Is that your book of business? If you decide to leave and go somewhere else in the future, can you take that book of business with you, or are they locked inside the agency's system? Your client list as a travel agent is the single most valuable asset you will ever build. So make sure that you're always going to have control of that and it belongs with you. Some host agencies yield so much control, they actually own your email address. So if you leave, you don't even have a way to email your clients. Third, how and when you get paid and whether they nickel and dime you to receive your own money. Ask how often they pay, whether there's a minimum before they release it, and if so, what that is, and whether they charge you a fee just to collect what you already earned. Fourth, contracts and quotas. This is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to feel like high pressure, someone breathing down your back. So you want to know this. Is there a long-term commitment? Are you locked into a contract? And if you are, what does it take to get out of it? Are there sales quotas, which is a minimum you have to hit, or you lose something, you get kicked out of the agency or lose your rate or status? A quota turns your own business into someone else's pressure, and you want to know that before you sign, not after. Fifth, the training and the support. As I mentioned, this is really important, and it's something a lot of newbie agents overlook. Is it a real structured curriculum with a live human you can reach if something goes wrong or you get stuck? This is one that can really make a difference in whether you succeed or not as an agent. So I say run those 5 questions across any agency you're considering. And here's the single most expensive mistake people tend to make. And this is the one I want to save you from. And that is choosing an agency based on the monthly fee instead of calculating what that commission split will actually cost you over a year. We ran the math earlier as an example because that fee is small, that's easy to see, but that split is large and it's a little easier to overlook. And that's where most of your money is gonna be won or lost. Okay, that's my picture of this whole industry. This is the video I wish I could seen when I started out years ago. It would have saved me a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and money. Which brings me to my big announcement. My friends, I've started my own host travel agency. Yes, after years of being a travel agent myself and helping thousands of agents with their own agency business, I decided to build my own host agency that I wish I had found when I started out way back when. It's called Atlas Coast Travel Group, and as of today, it is officially open for business. So here's my quick pitch, and I'm gonna make it the same way that I just taught you to judge every other host agency. I just showed you how to vet a host agency and exactly which factors matter. And I built this agency on the concept of radical transparency. So I'm gonna show you how Atlas Coast weighs up in every category. Atlas Coast Travel Group is built by agents for agents and is especially for people like you. Frequent travelers and cruise lovers who already live this life and want a home for it. You love to learn, you want to be part of a travel-loving community. So here's how we stack up across every single factor I just walked you through, because it's not just about community, it's also about making money as an active travel agent, which is what you'll be if you sign. On structure, Atlas Coast Travel Group is not an MLM. There's no downline, there's no recruiting income. We do have a one-time bonus that's paid out for referrals like almost every other business on earth, but it's not a recurring thing. In terms of cost, the monthly hosting fee is $39 a month. That is our founder's rate. It will not stay that way forever, but that's our launch rate. And that is locked in for life. I don't want you to go through what I went through, where my host travel agency I initially signed with raised my hosting fee twice in less than a year. So when you sign, you're locked for life. We're never gonna raise that on you. There's no 5-figure franchise buy-in. In fact, there's no setup costs at all. And we are committed to no hidden fees, none ever. In terms of the commission split, we have a really strong and aggressive 90-10 split. So when you sign with us and you bring in your own clients, you keep 90% of what you earn. In terms of contracts, we do not do long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time. You don't even have to contact us. You click one button online, you're done. As for quotas, we have none ever. This is supposed to be fun. This business moves at your own pace. We're never gonna put pressure on you. We're never gonna ask you to book travel. If you're booking nothing, that's okay too. You will never feel pressure from us, just the fun. In terms of control, who owns your clients? You do, full stop. They're yours to take if you ever go. We do not hold clients, we don't control that. Those are yours and yours alone. And training. This is the one that I think a lot of agents overlook, and it's one thing that we're very proud of. I have built this myself as a university professor in partnership with other university professors to ensure it is a structured curriculum with learning objectives, outcomes, and they are professionally filmed and edited. We also provide live support, office hours every week, a community organized by region that is gated. It's not some chaotic Facebook group, and we have actual humans ready to reach when you need one. I'll also be honest and tell you who Atlas Coast is not for, because I would rather you not waste your time. If you want a steady salaried paycheck, or if you want clients handed to you without doing the work, this is not it. You will still have to learn the craft, you'll put in the time, but if you're someone who already loves this, you love to travel, you wanna own your own business, or you want a side hustle just to bring in some extra income, and you wanna keep most of that income and travel alongside people who get it, this is the home that I wish I had had on day one. Now, here's what I actually want you to do. And notice I'm not pushing you to sign anything. I put an entire checklist that I just gave you in this video into a free guide. It's the radically transparent breakdown of this entire industry, and it is linked below. So go ahead and grab it. I have a vetting checklist on there where you can compare and contrast different host agencies and run it across every host agency that you're considering, including Atlas Coast. That's what I recommend doing here, because any host agency that hides information, makes you do a discovery call before giving you information, or puts pressure on you to sign, those are usually pretty red flags. And if you've watched all this and you already know, hey, I'm in it, my gut's telling me I want to make this move, you can go ahead and join right away too without any friction. The join link is right there too. Again, no long-term contracts, no quotas, no pressure, no nickel and diming, cancel at any time. It's pretty low risk, and you'll lock in that founder's rate for life. So start with the guide or go ahead and join. Whatever path you choose in this travel agent journey, we are here for you, and that path is wide open.